or the system, or just to be available in whatever way that is.
Karen Tarno, I moved to town about a year ago. And I've been the AmeriCorps Vista at the Conservation Center, working with Jake and others. And that term, year-long term, is up in a couple weeks, but I'm sticking around. My career field was water quality policy, land use planning, and things like that. And I was more on the surface water side, but a lot of interaction with stuff as well. So I just want to see if there's a way I can help the town before figure out where to go.
Christina Patterson, I'm interested in water, and I'm really interested in what happened last night meeting and these facts and figures that the holy cow for it hasn't been, this has not been concretized in, I don't know, a decade or more. So now we have from Leslie Kuzmeyer and Mayor Bachman's help and Trustee Weber and all the staff, we have bullet points and action to take to work on the water system. And the total here is $37 million. So it's I think I just want to follow this closely. I'm a proponent of the Logan moratorium and worked hard on that. And that was a component of why we're at where we're at. And all the forces coming together to figure the system out. And I'm also interested in working with the different water districts, the 27 different water districts, with bringing them in and unifying them and communicating to them, sort of becoming more of a unified force of all the water people that are on the system and put it all together.
Each prompt is either what are you passionate about or what are you interested in learning tonight?
I'm just here to learn anything.
Say your name.
I'm Paige today and I'm a trustee. I'm sorry I'm late, but I haven't been to one of these meetings in 2 times, so I just figure I'll learn something. Because every little bit of information of what people are thinking helps when we're doing our deliberations. Thanks. It's nice to see so many people. Cool. Enough.
Yeah, it's great.
My name is Anne-Lee Foster. I have a background in community organizing and definitely interested in the watershed restoration aspect of this, and we're also having a long-term sustainable drinking water supply for the town of Bayonne. I'm just interested in helping in any way.
Shereen Patterson. I'm in town of Peoria, Rio Grande. Interested in the water system since a long time. And all the twists and turns and the delays and the confusion and the misinformation. And I'm hopefully that is a thing of the past, and it seems like it. And I'm looking forward to seeing this new plan implemented, and it is posted online so everybody can access it. And I have a strong background in communications, and anything you want to get across to people in a concise way to garner support and get backing from the people, and not this confusion or objections or wait, we can do it like this or whatever. I'm here to help voluntarily in any capacity like that. But yeah, I hope to see a group like this, like regularly meeting and organizing and really getting this done. And maybe we can get it done faster than we think too. And maybe at less cost, who knows? But whatever, the money is out there for this. Let's spend it wisely, conservatively, and get the essentials done. Anyway, that's it. I'm happy to see this happen.
I'm Calla Rose Ostrander. I'm a Bunsard and Clark in the Silverleaf community up there. And I am here to support the town and Jeremiah in this effort, just however needed. I have background in grant writing and policy development, planning, and so just here to mostly help wherever we need to get things organized or coordinated.
And Mayor Mary, and I'm really interested in hearing from Jake Carter tonight and any Water Conservation Board grant and interactions you've had, since we're looking at one of those grants as well. But I am so impressed with the background in this group. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's going to be really good. And especially let's get our watershed fixed and as drought resilient as we can possibly.
Yes.
I'm Judy Briscoe, and my passion about this is to help Jeremiah and the crew act on this, whatever we need to do to get this system. So it's not always broken down. When I moved to Lamborn Mesa in '78, we lived in Paonia in town for 5 years, moved there. It was a joke because the big water tank wasn't up there when we moved there. I can't remember when it was built.
85.
Was it 85?
Put up, yeah.
We were there in '78, but that water that we got through our faucet did not see daylight until it came through that faucet. You know, it's magnificent. I mean, we have a gift of those springs. I'm also really interested in it because, let's see, where was it? Utilization of winter water and how we go about, you know, making that illegal. I'm also I'm on the log cabin system, and our springs, our water overlaps. So I'd like to see that, you know, that it's done in a way that we won't have issues later on with the ditch companies who depend on similar areas of getting their water. Because that could be, and we have some people on the ditch who are already concerned about that. They're afraid we're going to lose some of our water.
Yeah, we should, I'd love it if you could coordinate a meeting with some of those ranchers and their concerns, and we can understand who banks water in the winter time and who doesn't, you know, who just irrigates during the summertime and who banks in the winter time.
Okay.
I'm Kayla Rosen. I joined not the original, but the last version of the town's water committee because I heard about all the things going on. I've only been here 2 years. I'm really encouraged now, and I want to keep coming to these meetings because I'm learning from Jeremiah and, Mary and Leslie that things are getting done. And my hope is that that information gets out to the public. I want people to know. I would love to see a more positive attitude towards the water, towards the moratorium, and to see what's going on. And communication is so important that we get that word out, that this is what's happening, this is the plan, this is what happens next. All this information that Leslie put together for us was so fantastic, and giving it priorities. Let everybody know what's going on, because I think it'll help morale. It'll help the culture of the community to know that the water is safe and that it's gonna even get better. And that's why I'm here.
So thank you everybody for being here. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I just figured I saw that because that was just on the top of my mind, but there's a lot of it.
So it sounds like there's definitely an interest to talk about this plan here. And for sake of time, because Mary's got to leave, I'm wondering, Mary, if you want to say anything about like the spring redevelopment plan and prompt Jake for some insights about what it's like to work with the Gunnison Basin Roundtable.
Yeah, so we're looking as part of, actually, we had started out, I had a conversation with Tom Albee. We had originally looked at doing our hydro geo study through using the Water Conservation Board to fund that. And then a subsequent conversation, we found out that there was another geological study that was done.
That one was done in 2000 and it's not very extensive. They specifically looked at potential sites for reservoir storage.
Okay, so that one's not going to be sufficient to our need. Yeah, so we're looking at to see where infiltration basins are and how we feed those infiltration basins. And we had like 5 different objectives that we were looking at. And Tom was interested in it. And his questions are why do you want to do this now? We have money for infrastructure. Why aren't you going for infrastructure money instead of going for this study? And just I want to get your feedback about your working with them and what kind of grant you went to for them. And
So Tom's the right guy to talk to for one. He's the point person for the Benson Basin Roundtable for priority projects. And kind of, so we're just talking about what grants we had. There's a couple different buckets at Colorado Water Conservation Board, which is the state water, it's a state board that breaks up kind of the whole state into different watershed basins. So we exist in the Gunnison Basin. So there's a Gunnison Basin Roundtable, there's an Upper Colorado Basin Roundtable, there's various roundtables throughout the state. So the state has allocated funds that go to each basin. So there's a bucket of funds for each basin, and then there's a state pot of money that is different. And one of them is the Water Supply Reserve Fund, and the other is a basin funds. So the bigger grant that we've been working on at the Conservation Center is an integrated watershed management planning grant, which so we got funded for that. We worked with, it's a state program, but you have to get roundtable support. So we apply for a grant, and it's specifically for like watershed restoration or river restoration, but also river planning. So that we partnered with North Fork Water Conservancy District on that grant, which is also Tom. So he wears many hats. So the idea was to do an assessment of the North Fork of an agricultural infrastructure assessment. Take a look at all the major ditches, diversions on the North Fork, and what do they need for improvement. Also look at environmental and recreation needs along the river. Just do an assessment. That's what our grant was for. We put together 2 reports. One was an assessment of a report on each of the ditches, and we kind of came up with a plan and recommendations, and then we had environmental recreation as well. What does the wildlife corridors look like? How far is the riparian corridor extending? All this stuff. So the funding for that. So what we did is we went to the Basin Roundtable and presented our project proposal to them. But it was basically through Tom's steering committee, I guess they call it there. And then they approved, so we got some funding from them and some from the state.
Did you look at catchment basins as part of that at all?
No, so they have, CWCB has 5 or I think it was just 5 different buckets, is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, 5, yeah, right. One of them is watershed restoration grants, that's what we went for. It's like also a long range of planning. The other ones are like the water supply.
That's what we're.
Water supply bucket, there's like innovative projects bucket. There's one that's agricultural infrastructure, I believe. So you kind of pick and choose out of these, and something like storage or basins would be out of water supply storage fund. So you pick up, and it's on a rolling basis. I think the next one is July 1st. It's a grant application for the
Water plan.
for the water plan. Before you set a credit application, you need to meet with the roundtable, get their support in some way. I think they're meeting monthly now for a while.
They're meeting in March and then. So they're meeting in March and then they're meeting in April, May. So they don't meet every month.
So you need to use it on the main agenda.
Right.
For sure.
Exactly.
With a kind of proposal and work with them on that.
Okay.
Get a letter of support and some funding. They've got a bucket of funding.
Yes. Yeah. They have
I
a
think probably more now.
Yeah. Yeah, they supposedly have an extra pot of money that was granted to them by the state. And if they can use all that money up, then they can get more. So that's the point, is to use up all that money.
So Mary, what are you thinking in terms of order of operations for planning?
Well, so what we want to do is, priority is we've got to redo the 2 million gallon tank. Because the roof is failing like that, so we've got to get that done. But in order to get the 2 million gallon tank, then we have to get the 1 million gallon treatment plant online. This plays into, so we have to get the springs done. And as far as getting the springs done, that's probably faster and easier. And if we go for grant money, we can get that started sooner and finished sooner, because the grant funding is quicker than the state revolving fund loan fund, which is going to fund the majority of the projects that we're going to do.
Of the tank upgrades?
Right. So we're going for a stacked grant applications to do the springs. And this hydrogeological study is part of all of that. And I think while we can go up there and we can meter the springs and we can rehabilitate the springs and do all that surface work up there, I think this hydrogeological study underpins all of that, because it's going to really show us what is the geology up there. Where can our spring repairs and our spring rehabilitations, and what can we let, I don't know what the biological things we can do on the surface that are going to help that water stay in the ground instead of running off in the spring as quickly as it can, instead hold it there for us for later use and have it percolate through the ground better. So this is an underpinning study that we really need to get done, that will then support everything we do up there with the metering and the spring repairs and fixing all the pipes and all the rest of that. So it's a longer term and much more beneficial study than you doing the surface stuff. I mean, the surface stuff is all important and we really need to get that done, but this is a really long fix.
So I'm just curious about taking the spring redevelopment and putting it into further buckets. And I'm wondering sort of like the spring metering and the spring structures and those things, is that going to be part of the loan application?
No.
That's going to be a part of the
It's
grant
all
that will give
grants,
them.
yes, because
Okay.
the grants are due, I think March 1st is the DOLA Tier 2 in Energy Impact Fund grant. And we have to have, so that's $750,000, and we have to have a $750,000 match. And so that's where we're stacking three other grants that will match that $750,000 DOLA grant. So that we will get, pardon?
We don't have to have that money as a match, we can get it.
We can get it from other grants. That's why we're applying for. So we apply for the DOLA grant, and then we apply for the three other grants that will match the DOLA grant that will give us $1.5 million to do those springs. So that's the plan on that.
So are you getting enough from the engineers on the spring development side of things to put strong numbers together to get those grants and loans rolling?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've got solid enough numbers for them. I mean, the things we are waiting on right now is confirmation from a couple of those grant sources that we're going to be able to qualify as a low-income community, be able to get that. And that's where we're sitting here twiddling our thumbs going, tell us, and give us the grant application so that we can start pulling it out and applying for it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're tracking the funding strategy.
Oh, yeah.
It's too much for me to track, so I'm really glad.
Right. And so the nice thing is the state revolving fund doesn't really have deadlines the way these grants do.
Sure, okay.
But at the same time, we really need to get those loan applications in as soon as we can. And the sooner the better on all of that stuff, because that's going to be the longest piece of all of this, because it takes so long to get those loans approved.
Mary, do you have help writing all those grants?
Oh, yeah, Leslie and I are doing that together. And I had actually, Corinne and I had worked on that loan application together. And we had, everything is filled out except for the narratives. And we had actually the narratives pretty much done. When Leslie came in, she said, you're not asking for enough. You need to ask for more. And that's when we started pulling all the public works guys in and all the engineers in to look at the SDM reports and everything and say, all right, what do we really need to ask for? And we built the package up so much more than what it was when Corinne and I were working on it. So now I'm beefing up all those narratives to match what we're looking for now, because it was only like $3 or $4 million that Corinne and I were asking for, and now it's bumped up to like 17 million.
There might be an opportunity for Keller Rose, right?
Yeah.
For Keller to help, with
Only if you need it.
Yeah, and see, the thing is with the SRF stuff, it's all the engineers. They give us the verbiage basically for that because it's very, very technical and has to be just engineering talk.
You need help with narrative, let me know.
All right, I will. And we may, like on the tier 2 grants and all those other that grant stacking packages. Yeah, may ask for your help with that.
So, Mary, can I ask, so go back to the roundtable and what Tom had said, did he give any direction or indication? It sounded like he says a lot of money for infrastructure right now, but he wasn't so keen on the study. Is that what I'm getting?
And that was his big thing. He says you need to make an argument for why you want to do that study now versus going for infrastructure.
Wow.
And so, and
I mean, like, to me, that, what you said about that is absolutely fundamental, like, all of your planning. Do you?
I would, yeah, and I wouldn't say like with, knowing Tom, I don't think that's like a no, it's just saying like, maybe state the case and why do you need it? Like really state it well. Because it doesn't.
That's our natural infrastructure?
Well, I think that's it. We
Can
can
we
really
frame it?
Yeah, I mean, the reservoir exists underground somewhere, but we don't quite know how big it is, or how long it takes for water to move through it, or what times of the year does it move. A lot of things to study. It's just, it is an infrastructure project in a sense. Trying to bolster the infrastructure we have to its best capabilities. That's probably what he's getting at, is like to make a case for that.
That's what California is doing now. All their water infrastructure, they're looking at underground water management
Awesome.
for drought and flooding
yeah.
and how to utilize it.
And I think our backup plan is if one of these other grants does not come through, then we're going to go back and use the water board.
So I'm sorry, you answered this and I didn't record it. Do you have the money for that plan or you're trying to get them, I mean, for the evaluation of the geology?
You know, we have to write a grant for that.
So that's still like, there's no source for that yet?
Yeah, it's all grants. This is all grant money. So again, if push comes to shove and we have to go back to the water board to get the money because one of those other grant sources picked out, then we will use that. And then we will go back to them at a later time for this hydrogeo study.
I don't want to get too deep into the woods, but what are you imagining you use the hydrogeo study information for, to figure out where to put the other infrastructure or to do some more?
Our surface infrastructure is our surface infrastructure. I think Jeremiah can speak to that.
Just, yeah, how can we recharge our springs? Basically, how can we recharge the aquifers that are then daylighting at the spring sites? And we're also noticing that we're having more spring runoff earlier in the season and it's happening more rapidly. And I think our infiltration basins right now, from all the reports that I've read, is like basically those infiltration basins were designed to just take snow melt and let it like slowly infiltrate into the ground and feed the springs, and like it's all changing up there.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would be to better understand like the capacity of our aquifers, if they're confined or unconfined confined aquifers, just what's going on up there. Can we we don't have any like historical records of what it looked like when the beaver dominated the landscape up there. And we're just gonna, you know, make our best guess of like what kind of like low impact, nature-based strategies we can implement to you know, slow spread and sink that water into the ground. One of the issues that we've had since 2000 is that we might not have enough spring flow in the summertime. Yeah, so how do we mitigate that without just digging a giant hole and banking the water, you know, that way?
A lot of the cities in California, a lot of some, especially Orange County, they're using after they've done the wastewater treatment, they're re-injecting. So they're not running out of water. Before the beach has done that. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, it would be tricky. We discharge into the river and our springs are up in the mountains. And our treatment plants are pretty high up in elevation too, so it'd be.
Jeremiah, do you know if the water we discharge into the river, if that falls under the Colorado River Compact at all?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I mean, like. We're certainly taking every drop we're taking out of the mountain is ending up in the river. We're not diverting it anywhere else, you know, it's not it's like not even evaporating. It's going down people's drains and right back into the river essentially. But I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, because that could, you know, if that is mandated, we return X number of gallons to the river, that could really have to do with that discharge water.
I just have one question. Has anybody ever looked to see if USGS ever mapped the geology of this area?
It's pretty gross level. Like
They're not in the aquifers or anything like that?
No, there was one geologist that said that we have I think it's igneous intrusions in the Mako shell. So we know there's potentially fissures in the Mako shell, you know, but that's about all we know. And we don't know like where those fissures might be.
Aquifer and none of that.
They literally just looked at where they could put a reservoir and if the soil composition was suitable for it. Yeah.
I have a question for you. The actual land around the springs, that's on another property that we don't own, or what is the arrangement that we have with the property
So,
around the springs? 'Cause,
I mean, we have like little parcels that the town owns, where like our diversion boxes are and our confluence and diversion boxes are in some of our spring structures, but a lot of that stuff, like at least the aquifers themselves, the infiltration galleries, they're on like national forest land.
Oh, there.
And that land up there has grazing units. So that's something we're gonna have to navigate, but I don't think it's in conflict with the ranchers' interests up there. We're all interested in having more water, essentially.
Okay, because there was an article that a lot of us got from, I think it was Marta, about how beavers create dams and how that can replenish your water supply, helps hold the water in the ground and so on and so forth. So if we wanted to do something natural like that, would we have to look at a larger area and it might not actually become property?
Yeah, basically the hydrogeology study would not be on town
It wouldn't
property.
be at all. So then any plans that we make, do anything, with that land, the watershed property, basically, we'd have to involve.
Forest Service.
Forest Service.
Yeah. Definitely ranchers and the Forest Service, yeah.
Does the town actually own that land or do we have an easement does the town have easements from Forest Service, BLM, whomever?
That's a good, I have not seen any easements.
Because all of our ditches, we have easements.
Okay, then we probably do. I just haven't seen them. I haven't seen the file. Did you have
Didn't you
something?
find some water rights? You found files on water rights to those springs, or more of them?
Yeah, they exist. They exist.
Someone does say, someone say the 30, how many, 37 springs or more?
Yeah, It's not 32, 28. The number, it depends, it's like. It's hard to quantify the number of springs, because it's like, you know, it's one spring complex, but maybe it daylights in 5 different places some years, you know?
Oh, but we're only using a small percentage of that, aren't we?
Currently, to supply the town, you know, we're using our Lake Fork water and our Durham Creek and our Reynolds Springs. Yeah,
But there is a lot more.
yeah, that's only half of it. So,
Are there meters on those?
no,
None
uh-uh.
at all.
They're flumes, you know, they're. So. On that topic, does anybody else have a question?
Just have a question for Jake, which is like, how has your experience been in working with Forest Service rancher type restoration work?
Yeah, Conservation Center works on kind of works with these entities. Totally different entities for one. Forest Service for one is a planning process. So there's a lot of planning process, and there's working with our local office, and also the regional office, and that. I think on something like this, we want to work with our local ranger district and see what are their goals. Do they have the areas laid out in this region that they're wanting to improve for some reason? Grazing units need to be going to the Forest Service. So it's definitely good work with that local office. I think the ranching that's going on is the North Fork Cattle Pool, and it's of our West Elk folks that we all know, so it's a conversation with them. More about scheduling probably and timing.
Yeah.
It's just the communication that needs to happen. So.
So last time, I think you had mentioned, looking for volunteers to help clean up the springs area. Is that something that would happen in the spring?
Yeah, we got to get past mud season, basically.
Please let us know about that.
Yeah, I guess we'll work with the trustees on you know, scheduling that, coordinating that. Maybe we just like have a volunteer sign up sheet, and then we just have a list of tasks and we divide and conquer, you know? There's a lot of terrain to cover up there, basically, so.
Karen's probably gonna say I'm gonna say.
Well, I don't know, but last summer, one of our hike leaders led a hike up to the Paonia Springs, just because we were interested in it. We talked about that. And we talked about cattle. There's obviously signs of cattle and a couple cattle up there in the area while we're up there. And after that, and you know, the conversation was, oh, this has got to be bad. I was poking around a bit just to try to see if there's any literature supporting the idea that cattle are bad for spring fed systems. And I wasn't able to dig any up. And I just put that, I mean, there might be something out there, but I think if we're going to broach that conversation with the ranchers, you know, we have to have more than, oh, it's got to be bad. So,
Yeah, they've made a good case that they do good things up there. I can give you that literature to see, you know, like we have to work with the good that they're doing up there too. You know, we probably don't want to implement systems that we know are going to get stomped on by cattle, and we're going to lose our, you know, our little 2-foot contours or whatever. It's like, yeah, we can't be implementing those kinds of strategy. But to Jake's point of timing, maybe, you know, we can have isolate an area for a while to get something established. And then once that's established, the cow can come right back in, you know.
They rotate around the mountains.
Yeah, they sure do.
They've got it, so we can work with that. And I am sure there's ways to benefit. Anytime you're putting more water on the landscape up there, it's gonna benefit forage and pastures and water availability. There's gotta be multiple benefits, but it's by scheduling and timing. What I was gonna say is that the spring rehabilitation days, I know the Conservation Center has talked to you before about kind of housing our volunteer base to help with that, put the word out. Yeah, I'm sure they would still be.
What kind of cleanup is it? What was the volunteers we do?
Repairing fences, cleaning shrubberies so we can just access the structures, and maybe putting a metal roof on something, you know, nothing too laborious, really. It's just a good time, I think. What's that?
Couple trees, that was good.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I know this is kind of different. We had a well and it was influenced by Spurgeon fire and our well was in rancher's property. Had a lease there, but we had a problem where we had E. coli hits fairly frequently. So we had to fence like an acre around that just to keep the cattle away from that area.
It might be worth it to revisit our source water protection plan. It hasn't been updated in 10 years. So, and there's certainly areas where the cattle can get right over the spring boxes. You know, we disinfect and filter and everything. So it's like we're addressing it, you know, once it gets to treatment, but yeah, it's definitely something to consider.
But I mean, it's like, it wasn't a big deal, like, fence a little. Right around them.
But yeah, because the drinking water here goes through treatment, it's not as critical.
If anything, I'd be concerned that the cows are putting sediment into the water and then, you know, our membranes are working harder and.
But that's what I'm thinking about, you know, the cost of. I mean, you're testing it and then you get the E. coli hit and. Just reduce the amount of E. coli hits.
Yeah, I mean, we only test, we test 2 sites once a month for bacteria in the distribution system, so post-treatment, and that's all that's required. So,
So the treatment would address any E. coli, like she was saying,
yeah,
so that's why you don't really need to test.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be better to avoid it.
Did you, are you satisfied with that topic? Because
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to just open up.
Yeah.
The conversation to the rest of the things that are on this proposal and kind of maybe kick it over to Thomas and Paige and Mary to talk about it or
Yeah.
field questions.
Oh, do I?
I'm looking at you because you were really wanting to talk about it.
I was so impressed by it, honestly. It's been so, thank you all who had everything to do with this. Really. My questions are, let's see, about the money. Like, obviously, you have a comprehensive list of what you're going for this year, and just wondering what the difference between the grants you're asking for and the loans maybe that you're thinking of getting also this year.
Okay, well, the loan package. It comes from CDPHE and their state revolving fund loans, and they all come from the Biden administration's Build Back Better, that big infrastructure bill that was passed. They funneled that down to the states, and then the state took it and put most of that money into well, there were a lot of different categories in that, but they took all their drinking water and wastewater money and put it into CDPHE's revolving fund loans. And those loans mandated that at least 50% of those loans be forgiven. So that means, and instead of saying, okay, you know, if you get a loan of X number of dollars, we're going to forgive it. What the state of Colorado said is we're going to focus on small, poor rural communities first off. And we're going to basically give them as much money as we can and forgive as much money as we can for those people. So yay us, very disadvantaged community. First time in our lives, we're going, yay. So good, we qualify for that. Now, there are lots of different funding streams that come through, and you know, Paige attended, we went to a seminar, and it was held at Rocky Mountain Community College, and she attended virtually, and I went there in person, and they had CDPHE and DOLA and all the different funding sources there.
Whoa.
And I managed to get in this wonderful session. Dana Levesque from DOLA was there, and CDPHE was there, and the Water and Power Authority guy was there. And so I got to talk to all these guys at the same time. And the Water and Power Authority is like CDPHE is here, and their funds get funneled to Water and Power Authority, and they're kind of like the banker for CDPHE, and the money out. It's complicated, that's all I get at. But the Water and Power Authority, they have, not only do they get these CDPHE funds, but they get funds from another funnel in the state. And he said, because of who you are, and they know Paonia. And he said, because of who you are and the situation that you are in, we have what are called basic funds. And we can pull in those basic funds to fund your project. And our basic funds have an 80% forgiveness on them, which means, you know, if we get a $1 million loan from them, we only have to pay back $20,000 of that $1 million loan. And the interest rates are like 1.7.
Say the basic funds was through Water and Power Authority?
Yeah. So anyhow, the forgiveness rates are huge, and Leslie's experience with this, like when she was in Waldenburg a couple of years ago and did this for them, and within 2 years, their loans were completely forgiven. And they're also a disadvantaged community. So we probably aren't going to have to pay all of these loans back. So even if we sign on the dotted line and say, yes, we're going to swear to pay back, you know, $20 million, chances are we're not going to have to pay back $20 million. And the interest rates are going to be incredibly low on all of this money. So thank God for the infrastructure bill. That is going to be that. Now, have I wandered away from your question?
It's comprehensive. I was a little worried at that number, but it's like,
You know, this is the perfect time. I mean, we could not have done this without this money. We really could not have done it.
It's like, thank goodness, thank you. And I just want to thank Mary and Leslie because I'm not doing any of this anymore. But I understand what Mary's talking about, but I've not been needed. But thank you so much for so much of the time you've spent on this with Jeremiah, Jordan, Leslie, and Leslie is a godsend.
Yeah.
Again, we have the right person at the right time.
Yep.
So thank you.
yeah.
Somebody in the universe likes Paonia, that's all I can say.
And the other thing that's out there, and I probably should, I didn't remember this when we were talking to you this afternoon. There is CDPHE does have grants for a recycling program. So this is something that, yeah, if you want to go investigate, Lynn.
This is water recycling?
Pardon?
Water recycling?
No, a recycling program for the town of Paonia. So if we're ever interested in doing that, we can get money from the state to set up a recycling program for the town. A real one instead of the fake Delta recycling program.
Great idea.
I have the name of the guy somewhere in my files. I ran across it just the other day. And I can go track that down. Yeah. Or make a note.
Just another quick question about this. So are you looking at like 4 years reasonably or more, 5?
So the full extent is a program. So we have to do 2 different loans. We have to do a drinking water loan and we have to do a sewer loan. So we can't mix the two. So the drinking water loan is going to include, everything that we've talked about, replacing the tanks and doing the 2 storage tanks and all the pipes that we want to replace in town. All of that's under the drinking water. And that is going to be, it's going to be phased out and it's probably going to be over a 4-year period. Because we can't even probably get started on this until 2024. At the earliest. Now, the other loan is going to be the sewage loan. And all we're really looking for in that is just to replace all the clay pipes in town. And again, that's because we know we're going to have to replace our plant. We're going to have to do something different with our plant. Whether CDPHE will allow us to do an alternative treatment process with that and do something more natural and alternative, we don't know. But we're going to have to do something with it. We can't even begin to plan for that at this point. So we can go ahead and do our loan and replace all our falling apart sewage lines. And again, there's what Leslie calls escalation. And that's when we go to them and we say, oh my God, Our 2 million-gallon tank is not going to survive 2 years. We have got to get this tank fixed now, and then they will process the loan faster than they usually do. And our DOLA rep has said, you can get this done in 6 months. They can supposedly do the loan processing in 6 months. But again, fine, we get the loan process in 6 months, but that means that we're not going to want to try and redo our 2 million-gallon tank during the heat of the summer when everybody's irrigating, using our water at our max, and it's going downhill. We want to do it in the spring. So even if we got that loan process quickly, we're not going to do that until the spring. Yeah.
Are you looking for more areas of grants and money, or if you feel like you pretty much got it covered and stuff?
Well, it's going to depend on if the grant sources that we've identified come through. DOLA will come through, but the other 3 that are backing up DOLA, we're not completely sure about.
Have they looked at RCAC as a source?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We've looked at all of those.
Anybody want to see this thing that we're talking about right now?
That one that they had at the meeting last night?
Yeah.
Packet.
There's a little bit of modification from what's in the packet. We were handed a revised one. I did not compare it.
This is the revised one.
And I don't know what's changed other than the final total.
It was the numbers that changed on it because the engineers gave us.
They the ones here last
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
They changed.
No, the packet. These are the ones that were here are the most current. But I know that, we were looking at what's in the packet got revised.
Oh, and so where can I get one of those?
Probably could
I'll
still.
make you a copy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you might just read off what the final number is.
And that's going to change again.
Yeah, just 34.
37 million. Let's just say, let's round it down.
Yeah. And you don't want to look at me in decimal points.
7 mil, just a cool 40 mil,
Yeah, cool.
40 M.
So when you guys are thinking about that, I mean, it needs to be done, so I'm not in any way against spending money for something that has to be done, but. Did you have a general idea with, okay, if we get 80% forgiveness here and we get this forgiveness there, like a bottom line. Rough idea out of that 40 million, what we actually end up paying? Maybe 20 million, 10 million?
I don't know. The whole grant package. It should be, and I can't remember what the number was on the grant package. That would be the spring rehabilitation. That should be probably close to net zero. Because the grants will back up against each other. So that we won't have to worry about that. So whatever that number is, and I don't remember what that number is. It's the loan piece.
The reason I ask is. Having went around and talked to a lot of people just recently, and been exposed to a lot of. Anger and frustration about the water system and lack of understanding of backgrounds and all of that. I feel like this lady talking about communication. To reduce the hostility in this town and the. Ignorance, I only use that word as not being kind of formed. That, you know, when we have a better idea of that, to make use of her too, because they think nothing's being done, and they're really angry about any money being spent on anything. And if we can have an idea of like, you know, we're gonna get this much money, and then make use of her skills to. Because, I mean, it's bad out there, what people think.
Yeah. It's getting a lot better. People are getting, the message is getting.
Right. And it's way too soon to go there. I mean, we.
Like 2 years from now, I go there, or?
No.
No, it's. At this point, I mean, we haven't even put the package together to give it to the state to do our pre-qualification meeting for them to say, yeah, you're gonna do this. You know, it's way too soon. We haven't even got our figures
But
there.
maybe that's a good time to think about communicating
Right.
once you get that back from the state.
Right, and when we take it to the board, the time to start communicating is when we take it to the board to say, because then we'll have solid figures when we take. it.
So would that
You don't have to start with a budget. You can start with a plan.
Yeah, to start putting out the plan. And we're gonna do this big loan package that we're starting to move forward. And we're starting,
I mean, because I literally have telling people we get $3 billion from lottery proceeds. They're like, I don't want to sign it because we're not doing anything about the water. It's two different worlds.
Some of the information we're getting tonight, it should be out to everybody. You know, even the letter from Leslie where she outlines, you know, the scope of each project, you know, maybe in a simpler, without too much detail.
it needs to be way. The numbers need to be taken out of that because they're not even supposed to be.
Give numbers to the public, I think just ideas and what I think to be done.
You don't want to put those numbers out there.
No, well, let's see what Frank.
Right. The town page, it should be.
You're reaching out to people that wouldn't go there and look at that. So that you're trying to get them to have a mind that is open enough to listen to what you're having to say, instead of an immediate wall coming down and saying, I'm not even gonna hear you at all. Which she probably,
But that's why you start with putting everything out there on like the town board. You know?
but not this.
Yeah, sure.
Everything out there.
The thing is there, but you have to dig for it. I mean, it's not like it's right out there and you.
Well, you look at
go
the
to
documents, like photos. But the thing is, not to, when people starts hearing different numbers and things like that, that's when things get confusing. If they don't have a source to go back to, where everything is there that they can see for themselves, and then they see the evolution and how things change,
I don't
and then the
see
numbers.
anywhere in here that talk about the forgiveness. That's on my only one.
Well,
So
I
it
think
doesn't all have to be there.
that there's this plan, right? Where's the plan? And what I hear Mary saying is, we think, and Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, you think that we can get up to 80% of the loans forgiven. And the rest would be coming from grants, which don't have to be paid back. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And but again, it's, we think.
Right, no,
And
it's not that,
in
it's not that we have this secured yet, but
Right.
the plan
Right.
is to try and
Get
secure
the
grants.
majority of the loans forgiven and the rest is with grants that you don't have.
Right, and that's the part that I think is communicable, right?
right.
So I think that's what Gail's saying, Rose is saying, is that's just, like, our plan is to try to source 80% of this, so we don't have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think even before that, people here in town, they still don't understand the rise in the rates.
Oh, yeah. we know.
Okay, of where that's coming from and where's it going? So don't lay on them a huge budget and with the promise of possibly, you know, forgiveness. Because that is a way of fighting you.
But it's the way to respond if someone gets mad about, if someone saw these numbers, you'd say, well, it's just a plan and we're trying to get 80% forgiven, you know. And Lee made a brave move where she posted to the Pay On Your message board about the rate increases. And a lot of people were, you know, it's the worst of the worst. But I think just starting to communicate, and also we can't underestimate the word of mouth in this town.
Right.
So all of us knowing what's going on and talking to our friends and neighbors is probably the most single effective communication strategy for this town and the way people. That's
And I have to say, like, there's been more communication, transparency than I've experienced in the last 5 years, like in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy about that. I'm happy, and especially with you guys and totally what you're doing and what you've been conveying. You know, the plant tours, everything is like, I see such a difference. It's remarkable. It's night and day. It really is. So I'm seeing it, and I've been really at these meetings, you know, trying to get answers and trying to figure things out, and things have like accelerated, you know, exponentially in months. So I really appreciate that. And I just really wanted to ask, what do you guys think about this whole thing?
Not good.
Yeah. This is as remarkable as I see it as, like, this is just This.
I hope we just don't have to go back to the drawing board and do it all over again.
I think it was pretty thorough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, we did all the engineering reports and bring them into the conversation and point out things that they missed, and I think we're pretty thorough, like we're, you know, there's on Tuesday, we're gonna have a leak detection contractor out, and we're gonna go check out all the metallic pipe and see if we can find out where that 40% water loss is. You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if people didn't just plug right in and, you know, don't have a meter.
Really?
Like. Where is that?
No, after treatment.
After treatment.
After treatment. Yeah, we're,
Oh,
in the distribution system, we're losing.
We don't know.
It's the treatment plant, the treatment plant that we're using right now starts up on Landmore Mesa. So it includes like Hidden Valley, it includes, you know,
But
Turning
your
Creek Mesa.
suspected location for the leak is between what and what? The treatment.
Between the treatment plant and the wastewater.
And if it is, we're in trouble.
Yeah. I think it's like yourselves.
Yeah. The leak detection contractor has equipment. He's gonna come out, he's gonna stick, you know, he's gonna stick his little stethoscope thing to the pipe and listen for high pitched noises, and that's how it's done.
You are the right person for this job. Everybody laughed. Like moments.
I know it's a lot of loss, but we're gonna, hopefully we can find it. Otherwise, it's literally like people are just tapping into the distribution line and there's no meters. It's like, it's there. I don't know what to do about that. How to find that? I don't know.
It's a lot of.
It is a lot of.
Well, just understanding what's going on is a huge first step, so, you know, what we do about it, we can't say until we know what it is, so.
Yeah, I'm hoping we find some leaks on some of these old metallic pipes that have lead service lines, so we can just go, let's prioritize that, you know? We are working on our lead service line inventory right now, and it won't be until after like October of 24 that there's gonna be actually grant money to start replacing that stuff. There's some lead abatement money now, but like the big bucks are coming down the line after the inventory is done.
Okay, good,
And that's assuming we have a friendly administration,
yeah.
not locally.
Yeah. The national level. Could you describe those pigtails? Because that's where they are, is in the pigtails, right?
That's one source. So on the main distribution line, we have like a saddle tap, and then coming off the saddle tap is like a flexible tube, which is not exclusively, but a lot of the old taps have lead pigtails on them.
And what were those for, those pigtails?
It's just convenient to have a bendy little pipe.
But that is the water, that is where the water is going from the town
Oh, yeah.
distribution line into the house.
Yeah, so from the distribution line to the meter, and then from the meter to the house, and houses constructed between 83 and 87 used a lot of, you know, lead solder. And for whatever reason, the town of Paonia, like between 50 and 55, a lot of the pigtails coming off the distribution line were lead. So.
You kind of have a way to look a little bit, but you have the inventory, don't you?
Yeah, we have that inventory, and then we have to rebuy it. We have to add another component to that inventory, and that's where we look at the actual material coming into the meter and out of the meter. So if we know where a lead pigtail is, and then we discover there's galvanized pipe, that's like what happens is you get the lead breaking, leaching off of the lead into the galvanized, and then it forms big chunks, and then eventually those big chunks come loose, and then somebody can get hit by, you know, a bunch of lead. So So, yeah, we're following those rules.
Sorry to interrupt, did you post your video of his presentation of that?
I think it's on there.
Yeah, because you did that presentation at our last meeting.
Yeah.
So anybody who's interested in like, he went over the whole gamut of like everything that we know is wrong and everything that we have. And kind of the order of what things are gonna be done, and where did you? post
Paonia
that?
Town News.
Paonia Town News.
It's a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
No, is it in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have to excuse me, guys, I was late and now I'm leaving early, but it's fine. Thank you, Darlene.
Yeah, Jeremiah, this is great way to share information and whatnot. And I'm wondering, is this, you would say this kind of, this group is sort of reshaping is.
This is the reconfigured shape.
Yeah, and is this what you were hoping to get from this group or give to this group? Or I'm just kind of wondering.
Are you getting anything out of this work? Like,
I'm just wondering if, there's things you want us to contribute or if we have an opportunity to help set an agenda, or I'm just kind of wondering what you want to be doing going forward.
Sure. So last night, the town board voted to remove the ordinance that created the advisory water committee. So I think from 30 days, or that's going to be like legally whatever, next month sometime, it's officially disbanded. So these meetings are no longer formalized in any sense. And really, I think the key question is not what they want, but what you guys want, really. Based on what Dave Weber told me last night, or what he said, I guess, to everybody, was that the kind of rigidity and the structure of how it was set up, the formality of it was a detriment. So having less, being able to say what day we want, the composition of like who's doing what, having a little bit more freedom has been helpful for the group. So really, I think it comes down to, obviously we're all here to support Jeremiah and we're all here to support each other. But I think that each individual's, but whatever you want to get out of it is just as important as anything.
I was wondering if there's anybody who's not already on the email list, maybe we should have you all, give us your email so that somehow we can post these, when these meetings are happening and the other information like Dave has been doing. I don't know if Dave still wants to head up the committee.
As far as I know today, he's in Moab, so he's not
Yeah.
here.
So
he's expressed interest in continuing this.
Okay.
Yeah. But to your point, Karen, I think like everybody knowing what the target is. And then enough people knowing how to advocate for the target and keeping us on track is gonna be really important when there's turnover and management and trustees and such. Hopefully the trustees, once they're like, take up their position off the board, they'll still want to come to this and then, yeah, right.
I think before I was in the board.
But it's really like, I think the value in this is the continuity of the plan. Yeah. And I think, now that I know y'all and what you're interested in, I'm for sure gonna be like, hey, there's this little project that's going on, like how can we bolster it, put some wind in the sails, or how can we talk to the state about ozone and sonification, like how do we go about that? Like we're super limited. We can't just implement that. We have to for sure have chlorine on the distribution lines. So we have to put chlorine in the system, but that's a fun idea, but I don't know how to.
I can look into it, because I know there's towns that are doing,
Yeah.
so just be that. That's what I'm saying too, was using that on the output. They also say that it renders the solids completely usable for them. So there's total benefits, even if it was just on the output, but there are towns that are definitely using it, so I can look into that.
That's what I was gonna say, is that the benefit of this group is not only the contacts that we each have individually, but also has to do some research on some do a deep dive, go down that rabbit hole, and then bring the information back. You don't have to do it.
Right. And there's other, Spain, I was mentioning, Mary is doing a whole water purification sewage system. It's passive. It's using electrically charged from oil and some thing that looks like coal, and they implant a bacteria that somehow passes electrons through that substrate and it cleans everything up. So there's really a lot of other countries and people doing sewage cleanup way different.
Yeah, I think it's important to have the mayor at these. Ultimately, you're the one sitting there having the conversations with us and the engineers and being the pass through, Jordan and I are a pass through, but what you say has a lot of weight, ultimately. It's a lot of responsibility. Yeah. So yeah, we can twist the arms of the council members to show up to this and get a lot out of it too, Yeah, that's what I think about this. I think it certainly it's puts wind in my sails anyway,
I'm interrupting, does everyone know Jordan?
You want to take that?
And I just think. Yeah, he's a big part of this as well.
The prompt earlier was, what are you passionate about or what do you want to learn about tonight?
You're asking me that.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about you. Oh, not know you.
Jordan, and I'm a plant operator. I started with the town in 2016 near the end, I believe. And I was just running trash then, and now I've made my way to the water system.
So is he the operator responsible for?
No,
That's a guy named Benny.
that he's working his way.
Yeah, and thank you both for everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we've gotten so far ahead. Thank you
You
guys.
guys are just an amazing. Well, now,
Sing your heart out for us. Sing your heart out for us.
what?
There was some questions at the meeting about training, or especially about training these person. But I just wanted to have something that for the potential, the smaller thing.
Yeah, Jordan was actually in a storage tank and boil order.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever it makes sense, we drop into all those little small trainings. Really the conversation was around like a course that covers the exact material that we need for the next level of certification. So more like a streamlined education path. It's like we're learning so much and there's so many people available to us to learn about everything, but like in terms of getting certification, like some of the things that we're learning right now.
So just, there's a possibility that RCAC will help you get that, because we're.
The town's just gonna pay for it. We'll either like sign up with the American Water College or AWWA, or there's so many reputable training programs there. We just needed the town to say,
Okay, good.
yeah, exactly. So going forward with that. Yeah.
That's a really exciting thing, though. I mean, I would be excited to be trained as a water master, whatever.
I really want that title.
That's like in Oregon, the water masters are all about water. Yeah. They're ditch masters.
No, and we're at the place that I was talking about, our guy that ran our water district was a water master.
Was he an ORC?
We got to move to the
Was
west.
he an operator in responsible charge?
I just learned that.
Is that the what they were?
They were educating me.
Yeah, right. And that's, they're very difficult to find people that are already trained, and we have these two really great people.
There's a shortage of it all over the country. There's a shortage of it.
I think the juicy topic right now that's I'm thinking about is like, what's the concern for the ranchers? It sounds like the ranchers are really concerned about their water, and that's gonna be like the biggest point of contention, and like, how do we start talking now?
Reroute the lake for conveyance.
Oh, no. Okay, let me reword that, because really it's like our allotment coming out of the Beaver Dam Ditch diversion.
Yep.
We can't properly meter it, or rather, excuse me, that is one thing that we need to do, is we need to properly meter that, but what's happening is our lake coming out of that diversion, our Lake Fork water ties into our German Creek water, and then there's a diversion box there that's dumping 20% of all the water that goes through that. So the town of Paonia is dumping a portion of its Lake Fork water to a rancher that's not entitled to it.
I know exactly.
Yeah, you know. So that's what that project
Okay,
is. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for
Was that the only one?
Oh, no.
Okay, there's more. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So,
The water rights and going up there and finding, another spring that who's gonna file on it? Who's gonna file on it first?
right. And as far as I can tell, like, from the DNR website, like, pretty much every single drainage, every single takeout has been filed upon up there. And, so I don't know that there's any like overflowing,
Right.
there's nothing left basically to file on right now. So it's really just a matter of like, understand, like for the winter flows, right?
Right.
I was talking to Luke Reschke, and he was saying like, he's not concerned with us pulling from springs that we don't necessarily have a decree on, so long as there's not a user downstream who puts a call on that.
Okay.
And we can know basically based off of the allocations, if a rancher is storing that water, right? And so that's something that we need to tease out and then have conversations with those people, or just not, basically just don't pull from those springs if we know there's a rancher who's storing water. We don't necessarily need it. But we really need to have like a really comprehensive understanding of it all, like usually wintertime. We get low flows because the springs are drying up, but I mean, this year, like compared to last year, we don't have the plant shutting off for 6 to 8 hours every, third day or every other day right now?
I think yesterday was the first day in about 3 days.
Okay, so, but nevertheless, like the tank is filling up and then the plant's just shutting off because there's so much water coming down right now. So, this last year was a wet year.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider too.
Talk about water rights. I don't know if you talked about it at the beginning of the meeting, but we have hired an attorney to look into the water rights. And on Tuesday night, the trustees are having an executive session to hear about what's going on with the water rights through this attorney. So we should, because that's there are so many layers to this. Oh my gosh. So I don't know exactly what we're gonna get from this, but we should be getting some concrete information on some water rights Tuesday night.
Yeah,
This coming Tuesday, but it's an executive session, not open to the public for obvious reasons.
we're certainly not gonna pull water that we're not entitled to. Yeah, and that's why we're leading with the water rights, and also it's, I guess the town hasn't done their due diligences in upgrading all of the water rights. So we're just due to do that. I know. Did it go by Jim or James? Jim, yeah, I know Jim kept up on all that. I've been reading all of his past records and his correspondences, and, really advocated for the town when random abandonments came up.
Yeah, he knows what happens if you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
You lose it.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to make sure that we're clear on Tuesday. We will have executive session, but any decisions that we make after that session will be made in public. So
Right.
it is a public meeting.
Before and after.
Right, yeah, but it starts, I'm not sure what the start.
6:30.
Okay, 6:30, we'll show up. We don't know when we get out of it, but after we're finished with a private session, we'll do any decision making will be private. So.
Tuesday.
Tuesday the 31st.
So you say it's a private meeting, but can we watch the meeting? No, not at
You
all.
can come to the beginning of the meeting and then we go into executive session, which is not open to the public. And then like Thomas said, we can't make decisions in the executive session. We have to make them in public. And I have no idea what we're gonna hear. I know nothing. But yeah, Thomas is absolutely right. So you can come to the meeting, but you don't know when we're gonna come out.
Okay.
Because we don't know when we're gonna come out.
So you guys are gonna start at 6:30?
Yes.
Is there a way that you can post when you're done, so we're not like just off, no?
And I also had one other text that I wanted to ask you guys about anybody that has any information or thoughts on it. Has anybody heard about the artificial glaciers that have been used in the upper Himalayas?
I don't know any detail. Yeah, I heard about that, but.
Are they pulling from like seasonal wells though?
No, it's the thing what we had is like spring flow, and they just, put a head on it. And then like spray it or like let it go up, and the water, and this is over winter. So they just let it dribble in the atmosphere so that it freezes instead of running underground in the aquifer. So they bring it to the surface and then create these mounds, like these 60, 70-foot mounds of ice that then last through summer. They're, I guess, they're having run through July right now. That's how they're building. So
What's the elevation, like 14,000 feet?
they're 11,000.
11,
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if anybody has like.
Well, I think it's the exact opposite strategy of what we've been like trying to get to, of like get the water in the ground and then let it like surface at the spring.
Right.
Like where it sounds like in their situation, the groundwater aquifer is like. It's
basically a way to capture winter water and use it in summer.
Well, that's what the mountains are doing right now, but maybe we can add to this. Yeah.
Daylighting and elevation, has been just, it's been warm. That's what it's been over many years, and it seems to be like, that's the trend, is that the warming is actually going higher vegetation, higher provenance. Using that lower elevation snow in February, below 8,000 feet, the case. No one's here even in February, or so it's all gone. And then they're left about 8,000 feet bigger plots, but.
It's good for everybody though, just like we have this incredible opportunity to do things in a better way, in a way that deals with. Is it scary to say climate change in here? Is that about what it is?
I say airification just to be on the safe side.
Aerification. We have this great opportunity to like make a leading edge system by considering everybody's ideas. I mean, the ideas of, even if reality doesn't happen, it won't work, because wow, why would we want to put in antiquated methodologies and are in this crux of a place where we can take in all ideas and come out with.
Yeah, I've been surprised that like watershed, like habitat restoration and aquifer recharge hasn't been a seriously explored option. That's just what baffles me. It's like, really, why don't I just revegetate? Let's revegetate the ground here so that when it is dry and the sun's beaming down, like the groundwater is actually a little protected.
Yeah, in Africa, they've taken like whole arid places where nothing grows and used methodologies with animals and planting and made them very lush again. So there are a lot of things they do, and so why use these technologies that got us where we are, really, right? I mean, a lot of the ways that we've managed water in the past is. Here.
See, there are plans, and I guess some of it has started to pipe the ditch water. And so isn't that contrary to what we're talking about now with, using natural methods? Won't that actually reduce the amount of water that's available by taking it away from the land?
Well,
The person that would know that.
It's a tricky subject.
I'm curious about that. Like, what, I hear about the arguments and I don't have enough.
It's tricky. It's tricky, so we're all doing a lot. So you've got diversions, so what? You have diversions going on, and basically we're doing, taking the river corridor, whether it's Minnesota or North Fork, spreading out the landscape. With these irrigation canals, which are human created and not natural, so to speak. But what it's not always.
Not always, but a lot of it.
But some of them. But what it's doing is it's the way it's functioning is it's taking the river corridor and it's spreading out over the landscape and greening up everything. And I think as piping of ditches is largely funded by salt numbers, trying to reduce the salt loads salts that are in our soils naturally. And with shale. So that's what's funding this. But what you get also is this water efficiency gain in a sense as well.
Putting it into place, yeah.
And water, and I think what we're beginning to see is like water efficiency is good. We all know it's good. But there's also a change that happens in the landscape when you get ultra efficient. So I think that's what, in my opinion, what needs to be studied is what are the impacts of piping a ditch cumulatively? What happens when we change the way we put water on a landscape? And so water rights is one thing, we have that pretty well established, and there's lots of arguments on whether that system has worked well or not. But you're putting water in different places. You're going from point A to point B, but our traditional systems of ditch networks have been point A to point B, but also there's seepage going on, and there's a lot of other draining that's going along the way.
So how does
I think we need to do a better job of studying what is to be lost.
how does it affect the wildlife?
Well, it'll change it dramatically. I mean, the way I look at sort of the river corridor that, before white people got here, there was a river corridor that was big and broad and there was wildlife in it. What we've done is we've changed that and moving the river corridor up on these benches out and about. And so the wildlife, I think, have adjusted to that and moved up and moved out to our systems. But when you pipe a ditch, you lose that habitat value. So there is funding in these projects to do habitat replacement. So, it's a portion of the funding that goes towards a ditch piping project has to go towards a habitat replacement. And what happens is someone comes along and assesses a ditch, walks along it before it's piped and says, well, here's the habitat value that exists. And they give it a number through this scoring thing. You have to find a suitable place nearby in a conservation easement or protected to that will improve the habitat value of that new location. So it sounds very difficult to do, and it is very difficult.
My question is the long-term impact, not just the animals, okay? So you're putting all this water onto a field, that gets harvested up or whatever, and you keep doing that. And there's nothing left for anything else. That I understand the habitat thing, but if we left it the way it is, wouldn't that preserve some water? In other words, I know it's downstream already because it's the ditches, but wouldn't the retention of water in the greenery and in the soil itself?
Like what you was talking about, when you're shading the soil.
Just for evaporation and just for the.
I think it's in the wrong place, right? Because it's like up on a steep embankment or something like that. That was like never intended to be lush anyway. It was
But it has within 100 years. It's been so. I mean, the deer that are walking along it don't know the difference. There they go. So
My understanding is we have people on the ditch who are still concerned about that completely. We have to put the pipe, if we ever get this done, it's been 12 years, we've been working on this. So we have to follow the existing ditch that was created in 1898 from Log Cabin. The rest of the water that is around that area is gonna go down a natural drainage like it used to.
This is kind of like my major soapbox, is that we're talking about cumulative impacts, so we're like piping all of these ditch networks, like there's cumulative impacts going on, and we don't know what all of them are. But we have these natural drainages that are coming back to life, so to speak. So we need to really, I'm pushing reclamation on this, is that we need to focus on those natural drainages and improve them. Most of those little areas that would normally have been green and lush and.
That's what I'm advocating for with our spring system. It's like, those are natural ecosystems, you know.
So I don't think we've done a good job of habitat replacement so far.
No,
Really
they're
haven't.
hard to find, and to get on those damn points, like you said.
So
By the springs.
What?
Let's put them by the springs.
Well, I wanted to put them up above, you know, ours above Beaver Reservoir.
By ours.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like at the headwaters, right?
then they have to be a suitable site, they have to meet certain criteria. And ditch companies are not in the business of habitat replacement, they're in the business of moving water from point A to point B.
Right.
So that's part of the reason I really decided to focus on this, because we need to find better sites, do a better
I
job
agree.
before we lose something.
I have another concern with this. And if you give me 60 seconds before you decide on talking about something irrelevant. I live in a town that 40% of the town is burned down and 7% of the town is burned down. And the fire came down the mountain, there was an apartment building, burned the apartment building, 54 units to the ground. Across the street was a house that had a huge garden. Small lot filled totally with plants. That fire literally split and went around that house. And when you make long spaces where you reduce, eliminate, whatever the correct terminology would be, you're reducing, like he's talking about, you're reducing shade, so I feel like, I don't know, but the potential that it would actually make our fire risk in this valley much worse.
Yeah, worse.
There's people studying that. There's groups studying that, like how fire mitigation and where tied to water resources.
Right, because when you have conifers and they get dry, they are like blowtorches. But the deciduous plants actually seem to create almost like a vapor cloud that diverts. And I saw that in our town, my house, every house around me burned. Mine didn't, I had a lot of gardening and I had just watered. And it seems like it creates kind of a vapor barrier for. Now, if you have a lot of conifers that would go from treetop to treetop and just travel right down, we don't have that. But we do have, other plants that could.
Fire is a big risk. And yeah, you're right, these greenways or these green areas.
So, yeah, keep it from just like piping everything out.
There's trees along the ditches that are just huge and beautiful. They're gonna be gone if they pipe those ditches.
So then they're gonna also have to decide fire mitigation, because once it's not, I live on Doris in Colorado, ditches right above me, and it's pretty heavily. There's a lot of shrubs and trees and that kind of thing, so if they pipe that. That does,
They have to take out.
gonna burn, that kind of thing, so it does. Fire risk.
So there are people studying this where we can.
Yeah, the land trust is working on a project and who else? They're working on the Forest Service, that's Forest Service land. But I think we do need a pretty involved study the ditch, benefits of the ditch networks.
The bottom line is we don't know that because we haven't done the study.
Yeah, and we think we know, we all know.
We have our opinions.
Yeah.
Based on that.
Here's who assesses like an appropriate site for a habitat restoration, like why can't we just, we're taking water that's running this way and we're looking for a place to replace the habitat, why don't we just put it in the tributaries that come this way.
We'll just messing with it.
Oh, so what, I mean, you have a
Yeah.
your checklist of like, what's an adequate site, what's a suitable site?
It's Bureau of Reclamation is the funder, so they have like these different criteria. One of them that is that you have to guarantee the habitat. The new habitat you're creating for 50 years. So 50 years, it's basically it's gonna have to be in a conservation easement or public land of some sort. That has some sort of guarantee that it's going to be there. Well established. So they come and they monitor and they make sure it's doing well. So it starts to limit where you can do it pretty quickly. And then, if you look at a conservation easement map and you figure out where those parcels are, then you can talk to the landowners. And some might be amenable to it, some don't want to have anything to do with any government land at all, even if it is. So there just gets to be a lot of things.
We can add to that, if the ditch in front of my house, which I do not have a shower, is piped, I'm gonna be using town water to water my big tree.
Right now, you're using the water.
I mean, town water to water my gardens and to water my little trees.
It's the ditch seepage that is irrigating.
The seepage, yeah, no. I don't- Oh,
She throws a pond.
I'm sorry.
So just throw the pump in there.
Sorry. No, I don't have shares. I'm not using it, but it does water my trees.
Well, he would like to pipe.
But she's just articulating what's happening all over naturally. Because all the different.
But I will say that
No problem, sorry.
if you do own shares in a ditch and that ditch gets piped, you can use your shares to water. I can do that.
But everything in between where the shares are is.
Yeah, so we don't have shares or whatever space between, yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is free the ditch without actually saying that. Is that what you're saying?
Free the ditch.
That's where it's gonna turn into. Free the ditch. Yeah.
You have to look at reality, but like, why implement something, like, that's the reason we are where we are today is. We did a lot of things not understanding long-term impacts, and not just in ecology, but in. Finance and in so many areas. So rather than implement something like, the reality is we have to have water to survive, so are we gonna have to make some compromises somewhere? Yeah, probably, but do we wanna make compromises that are just gonna create a fire zone where we all get burned up instead of not have water,
And I think you have to look at habitat services in this all too, because, when you mentioned, before we were all here in the Indians, there wasn't the, need for pollination or all different things. We have Colorado has over 300 species of native bees, and a lot of that riparian areas, that's habitat service area for.
Oh, wow.
A lot of things. So I think, that it's not just about people and trees,
It's about,
a huge holistic picture.
and that pollination, we have a lot of farmers who livelihoods are dependent on that pollination.
And it's not just pollinators, but you look at the trees and the insects they bring in, and the birds depend on that for feeding their young. I mean, it goes down.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So, it's a big picture, and we're taking a little piece, saying we don't want salinity going to Gulf of Mexico, and so we're gonna do this back here, and we're impacting a whole infrastructure that our culture is now depends on. And maybe when there were less of us and it was just the Native Americans, they moved around, they didn't depend on that. So it's a different picture.
That's why we're just focusing on domestic water.
But if we can at any point without make a decision, if we have a decision point where we have options, then we can make a decision. Direction.
Yeah.
And we can influence that happening. We certainly have someone here that.
Well, I can't influence the Bureau of Reclamation. We could advocate, like, I mean, to me, it makes sense to just rehabilitate the riparian zones. Like, why aren't we doing that? Like, the ditches intersect the riparian zone. So what if like there was a takeout and we could just open up a gate and just flood the bottom of the riparian
And there've
zone?
been a few good ones like that, there's been some talk about doing one here, that's. The best habitat replacement projects have been on the river, and somewhere near that's gonna grow without irrigating that.
Yeah, I'm thinking up in the tributaries though, like that's,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, what if they even let a slow trickle, you know, the main focus of the pipe goes downstream, but there's, you know.
A little down or something like that.
Yeah, like they drilled it.
It's not like that. They want everybody.
Well, no, they have to do these habitat restoration, like they have to move these credits around, so they're incentivized because they're way more efficient, right? Their ditches aren't leaking and they're getting more water to their fields, and so like. I think they're willing to play ball. What's your sense?
I think they are, and we have to leave some water up in, open water up in our ditch system for a while.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
how does, I'm so ignorant and I apologize, but you have a lot of cattle that are run out on the forest line of Inlet, right? So would this not also affect that? If you're.
They got stock ponds.
They have stock ponds.
Okay.
Yeah, they got that all figured out already. It's really
Yeah.
it's the confluence of water down to the fields where the grass is, the hay's being produced.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot to know, huh?
I've never lived any place for water.
Yeah, it's that.
Any last thoughts?
Can I ask you a quick question about the inventory, asset inventory? Is that like,
The letting
Scott.
power asset inventory?
like Scott Thomas's study,
Oh.
or is that just defunct or not really necessary?
No, we're just chipping away at it, really. Scott's father is ill right now, so we haven't had his. Later in the meeting, so.
So what, like, you will call upon us if there's a way that you feel that we can be useful to.
Well, I was gonna say, if everybody isn't already on the email list, come and give me your name and email, and Dave Weber will put out an agenda.
Help us work grievances, come here, like if you hear of a grievance, just come here and let's.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier, there's being online and going to talk to people. I mean, it makes you not want to be involved sometimes because there's so much hostility and so much resentment and so much misinformation and so much ignorance that people they're like this, I mean, I even had someone say that when we were talking about the $1 million, well, the board will use this much for a dog park and then they'll buy a house with the rest of it. And I was like, that's pretty rude. You're talking about, number one, you're talking about really heavy, illegal behavior, but number two, if you have eyes and you can walk and go to the park, there's an oversight that you can do, which is to see if these projects are done. Like, you don't have to do that. But just the level of not understanding, it's not like in this room when I'm out there a lot of times.
There have been instances in the past, most notably, I don't know if you're familiar with
I've only been here a year and a half.
Okay, Kristen Chesnick, that thing familiar. So there was like actual embezzlement happening in town and like the tune of, what was it?
$500,000.
Yeah, $500,000 or something like that.
600.
Yeah, $500,000 was taken from the town and put in somebody's purse, basically.
Well, I'm not saying that people don't have reasons. I mean, I can see myself, I came here and I was astounded by the ritual and all that. And then I had some experiences where I wasn't treated with respect, where people said they would do things that they didn't do, like I had some experiences and I finally told someone in administration. I said, when I came here, I would totally defend the city. I tried to help people understand how hard the job can be. that there's servants, and I said, but now I'm starting to understand why people are pissed off, so I'm not saying that people don't have reasons. What I'm saying is, there seems to be a huge shift, like, there's a tremendous effort to make it all, make the water system.
a convert.
Critical thinking in schools.
Well, yeah, I have a proposal along those lines, and I would love your assistance on this, since I also have a communications and marketing background, but I think it might be helpful if we put together a talking points document where that we could share among this group, might not necessarily be public, but it could just be the, you know, top level things we want to focus on and that we want to convey to the public. And then I would also propose putting together some kind of a press release. Maybe it's not quite the time for it now, but in the near future. Where, well,
The Independent last month,
great.
and that was when we invited everybody to come to the Solstice Day, meeting and all that. So yeah, we need to do more of that.
Yeah, let's do some more and like, you know, summarizing some of the stuff that you're doing with like leak detection, showing that there's proactive things happening. And then I think putting together something with the ranchers would be a really smart idea. And then maybe having another just like public town, question and answer kind of session too at some point. But I think first and foremost, like a talking points document and then a press release of what is being done and what is on the horizon to be done would be really helpful in just like getting people. And obviously there's always going to be people that.
Yeah, no matter what you do, there's always gonna be some, but I think there's still kind of a generalized idea that nothing's being done about. the
Yeah,
water
and I
system.
think you're right, that communication is a huge part of that. And just, this is probably a little over people's heads.
Yeah.
And also there are some scary numbers in here. So, yeah, just ways that we can present this in a more concise and digestible way.
Emily?
Anley.
Anley, sorry. I just want to make sure everybody understands, this is a public meeting. This has to do with our public water system, so there's no secret documents ever.
Oh, yeah, no, and not that it would, it's just not that we wouldn't post it on Facebook or whatever. It would just be more for our own personal,
We have to have absolute transparency.
Yeah. Wouldn't make anything secret.
It's what she's saying, but on a level where people can actually look at it and understand. I'm not advocating to hide anything from anyone. But you have someone a document like that, all they're gonna do is shut down. They have access to it all.
It's the definition of
Yeah.
And people address the successes instead of the negatives, and then here are the things that still need to be addressed, and here's how we're doing. So approaching it from, instead of we have this terrible water system and all this problem, it's like, here's what's happened in the past year, here, here's, from the point when we had the whole big water field, here's what's happened. And so to approach it that way, I think people wrap their head around it differently than starting out with problems.
So an action item that we had from, I think this is the last meeting that we had was to get water information on the town website where it's. Because you have to like rifle through meeting minutes, you can never find anything, right? So, and I don't know if Dave brought it to the board, but I mean, maybe it's something that you can circle back with him on and then as, the council can actually conclusively decide that we're gonna share better information with the public and make it really easy to find.
Did you say you made a story map?
Yeah, at the solstice meeting, the presentation that it was terrible. It didn't, the image you didn't see with my presentation because I put it together in the last 20 minutes.
The only thing that what I did was I got information on LEAP, because last month it was all about the water rate increase. And, I was concerned that people in town that are living on very limited budgets, so I got information on LEAP and I posted it, and it was posted on the town website, but when I went to find it, It's very hard to find.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little box that says town news. And then you click on that, and then you have to click on, do you need help with your utility bills? And then you click on that, and there's another link, and then you click on that, and then you see what I submitted, you know, as an article for people to learn.
We don't really have a webmaster, like Joanna knows how to like post things, but she's not a web designer, it's not a knock on her or anything like that, it's just somebody who's really versed in that knows how to
Yeah.
lay out a website that's easy to navigate, and I think, you know, we have like a water portal at the homepage, you click that, and it's totally like town of Paonia water, yeah. Like, here's
It's really hard to now.
oh, totally.
Very hard.
Believe it or not, it's much improved from other. ones.
Yeah. That's right.
And honestly, like everybody just has to give it time because this came out last night.
Yeah, like I didn't even see that.
Like complex things that are being done and they're being communicated just now, like we are in it on the ground floor. This is all really good stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what's great to see, but. Changes in the coming months. As our. Management processes are revised.
So we have a new clerk. When's all good news?
Veterans appointed clerk last night.
So right, to all the people that are involved in the employees or governance, thank you. I can't have it anymore. I know it's a lot of dedication or have to put up with a lot of things that people not really understanding, and I appreciate what people do, and it is a hard job.
Yeah. Well, Sherry, thanks for defending us the other, yes, I don't know, there was a thread going around and people were saying we don't do anything.
Slacking, you're there slacking. Oh my God, you don't know how it was slacking before that. But so just to point out to people, okay, so February is when the new rates come out. That people are gonna be shocked at, and they're gonna be upset. So if we can get ahead of that. The people that wanna help communicate, you know, let's do a real kind of
doing
thing. Like before, like real fast, like in a week or two, and get it out, and we can all be kind of coordinated on the message and know what to say to neighbors, friends, da, 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 da. Cause it's gonna hurt for a lot of people.
How much is the increase?
$30. It's like a third raise
And that's on the whole town bill.
on the whole
People in
town.
town are getting
You should see when I got the thousand ball.
Yeah, I know.
Kidding, I didn't want. Yeah, it's two things, yeah, I mean, if you have it like, $1,000 left, $30 a lot of money, but I mean. I live in places where. Oh, no, it was totally. Ecstatic.
Yeah. That's not really the case, because there's a lot of people who don't think that's everything else, so it's tight, and people have come here because they like it. I am not one of those people. It's a healthy community, they like it, they don't want that, you know, endless spending and everything else, so they're questioning it more and more, so it's good to get ahead of that, like in the next couple of weeks, so we'll be making use of those emails. To get
Just to the point of the talking points, like how are you gonna communicate that with the group? Like, I don't even,
My email.
are you're on it?
Yeah.
You're on it?
How can you
I put my information on there.
get yours and everything?
Yeah, and I think we have to develop something and then obviously share it with you guys for final approval.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, and based on this kind of information, you know, this is where we're going with that. And not to make promises that we can't, because, oh, it'll be forgiven, don't worry, we'll get back to low rates next year or something. No, it's, you know.
So if you know anybody that needs a reduced rate, if that person qualifies for LEAP, LEAP, low income energy assistance program. They can come into the town. I dropped off brochures, but they were never put out in the rack. So I gotta just walk in and say, where are those brochures? Put them in the rack. Actually, my husband dropped them off. That's why I did.
That's what happened.
But they can come into the town office, find out about applying for LEAP. And if you qualify, the town gives you a 20% discount.
On the base rate, just the base rate, $4.50, 20% off.
That's right.
20% off.
That's right.
It's not
It's not big.
It's not much of
The
an-
other thing about LEAP too.
Other things, so.
Yeah. That's the thing with LEAP too. Also, people who aren't part of in this area.
They don't want to get
With government and with intrusion and filling out forms. I mean, I don't
Water.
give
Bill.
giveaways, you know.
and you should get in writing.
Yeah, it's not fair. And I agree.
All these different.
I don't want them.
I was in the.
But also there's different channels or whatever, but a lot of these things are false. It's better that they know.
I think it's a.
And that it's genuine to get something. And,
Yeah.
and they just. And let them remember, it's everybody just.
So the next meeting is gonna be February the 22nd,
Okay,
Wednesday, February 22nd at 5 p.m.
is that the last Wednesday?
It's the last Wednesday.
Okay, February's a short one, okay.
So I guess we have our email list, we can go ahead and communicate that way. If there's anything that you want to have in particular, I know that Martha wanted to show a video with this one, she's at the county meeting for land use code, so she can show it today. But if there's anything you might have, a particular topic of interest, or question that you might have, or anything that you want to talk about, make sure that you share it with the group, so if we need to be prepared for it, we can be. And with that, wish everybody a good night.
It's, Lee Weber, I think, and, it's kind of Paonia, so. He runs the city, and he was the head of our.
Can you just give me that sound page? Yeah, that's great. So. Yeah. And you can get a response.
But 2,000 is just like on that page, like I have it.
Well, that's the thing. Like. Yeah, just say.
Yeah.
What's that? Maybe you're. That's how you find out.
You're right.
It's like. And like, I mean, if you. Not so much for lightly.
That is.
There hasn't been much.
Nice to work with you better.
A lot of those are true.
Yeah. Yeah. So Steve bought them. I kind of suspect that Judy is that for them because she we don't have an itch. And you know, she tries to.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
The text.
That's great that you reached out. I'm actually gonna come and talk to Judy because I think, like, and we speak to people. I mean, not all the time. And you, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.